Hello, and welcome back to KAS 411 Midweek Podcast, where we give up the information, motivation, and educational to the public, to our viewers, and everybody that's viewing us right now. A lot of times we're on YouTube. Today we're on Facebook Live. So we would just want to give you a good welcome and thank you so very much. I got my special guest here, Miss Gina, and we're going to get into that in a few minutes. But you know, with this being the last weekend of August 2019, wow, where did the year go? Tell me about it. But we're coming into a 3-day weekend. Some people take a 4-day weekend because they take Friday off too. But anyway, it's Labor Day. It's that one holiday, the last holiday of summer. So what we want to tell you, and what I want to bring to you, as I usually do, a little bit of information about Labor Day. Labor Day pays tribute to the contributions and achievements of American workers, and Labor Day 2019, it occurs this Monday, September 2nd. It's traditionally observed on the first Monday in September, and it was created by the labor movement in the late 19th century and became a federal holiday in 1894. So that's a little bit about it. We'll have a little bit more coming up soon. But today I am so excited because I have a very special guest in the industry of real estate, but finance. Finance we hear about, sometimes we're afraid of, but I want to tell you, it all depends on who you work with and how that person brings it to us. So with passion, Gina Farrow, please tell us a little bit about what you do here as a loan officer and consultant.
Okay, well, one of the things I want to talk about that's near and dear to my heart is the PWR Charity Foundation. I'm on the board of directors for that, and I underwrite the grants. So every PWR member has that member benefit, and what we do is we do fundraisers to generate funds so that we can supply grants to first-time buyers.
Now, let's tell them what PWR stands for, because we got viewers out there that are not realtors.
Pacific West Association of Realtors. So that's the agency that, if you work in this area, that's usually who you're aligned with, and they have a passion for first-time home buyers and for home ownership. So we got together in 2002 and created a charity foundation. And with the charity foundation, again, what we do is we do fundraisers, we work off donations. We have usually 2 large events every year, but we also do several smaller events. And that generates the funds so that we can supply those grants to the buyers. So we started out with veterans. Mm-hmm. So we first started doing the grants solely for veterans, and then we moved into first-time buyers. So now we do both first-time buyers and veterans. And so the goal is obviously, the key to it is it's a grant.
Okay.
So it's a gift.
Okay, so that means you don't have to pay it back.
Right.
Okay, so buyers understand that we have access both in Orange County and Los Angeles County to be able to be and provide for you a grant. And how much is that grant?
It's $3,500.
Okay.
And they can use it for either down payment or closing costs. Most people use it for closing costs.
Okay.
And there are no deed restrictions. There's nothing that ties them. They don't have to live there a certain amount of time or anything like that. No strings attached, $3,500. All they have to do is have a PWR real estate professional represent them.
Like
right.
myself.
And if you're the buyer and you have somebody like Keith representing you, then you're eligible for the grant.
Excellent.
So income limitations are very gracious. There's literally no delay as far as getting them processed. It's not like you wait like some of these programs where you have to wait and there's a lag time and you may need a longer escrow because of that. We get them done usually within 48 hours.
Okay.
So you just have to be under contract, and it's a real simple process. Again, it's a gift. The money gets wired directly to escrow at closing. And so it's a real good way to help your buyer who doesn't want $3,500.
Okay, so let me just dovetail on this. So you serve on the board.
Yes.
That was created, okay, and you've been on the board for how long?
Well, I actually started actively underwriting in 2008.
Okay.
But the charity foundation was actually put together in 2002.
Okay. So we have the underwriter sitting right here. So who's your realtor? Keith A. Stafford, homeowner educator, and I'm able to tie in with, you know, a lot of my friends and associates that are in the business, so this is just one factor. So Gina, let's go ahead and jump on to the other areas now. Gina has also been in corporate banking and financing and everything, and now she's with a mortgage broker.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about how this financing works, because that's the first thing that we need to do when you get an idea of looking for a home. We have to get you qualified. Let's
Exactly.
talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. I actually work for a mortgage broker, and I've been in the business about 36 years. I started with mortgage banking, and then went into mortgage brokering, and then went back into mortgage banking, and then went to work for banks.
Okay.
So I've kind of done a little bit of everything in regards to mortgage lending. The good thing is that, you know, the products that are available out there, there are grants, there are state grants, there are down payment assistance levels of financing that you can get, and a buyer usually can get in for sometimes less than $1,000
Okay.
into a piece of property. So, and the rates obviously being where they are, you know, you can do, usually when you're doing layers of financing, the interest rates are a little higher, and that is the case for some programs, but you can get programs as low as 3.5% with layered financing.
Okay.
So it's never been a better opportunity
Okay.
to buy something.
So let's clarify, so the 3.5% is
Mhm.
like what you would put down for a down payment on a house, 3.5% of the purchase price.
Well, usually yes.
Okay.
But on these programs, if you can either do a 3% or a 3.5% down.
Okay,
Then what we do is we do a down payment assistance to cover that down payment.
okay,
And then we have an additional layer of financing that will help with closing costs.
okay. Now, are all of these free money again, like grants, or?
No, they're not free money, you do have to
Okay.
pay them back.
Okay,
So what happens is you would get a first trust deed, and that, you know, depending on the program, will be anywhere from 3.5% to 5%,
okay,
depending on what you're putting down, credit score, if it's a FHA or a conventional loan. Then we do a second trust deed to cover the down payment portion, and that's at 3% interest, but you don't pay that back until you either refinance or sell the property. So
Okay.
it's basically called a silent second.
okay.
You're not making any payments on that money.
Oh, okay,
Then we also have something that is called a zero interest program that we put on top of that to help with closing costs.
okay,
So you can get 2 to 3% depending on what you decide you wanna do.
all right,
That will cover that, and that you pay zero interest on that.
okay,
Again, that's another silent second, so when they sell the property or refinance it, it does have to be paid off.
okay, all right.
So,
So with that said, now, that's what you get for money to help you in down payment assistance, closing cost assistance.
Right.
But interest rates in this day and time, they're not like they were 20, 30 years ago. Right now, it's
No.
at an all-time low.
all-time low.
Let's talk about what interest rates have been kind of like up and down over the past 60 days, let's say.
Well, you're looking at, depending on, again, a lot of people, when they ask what is the rate, well, obviously, it's gonna depend on program.
Yes,
It's gonna depend on credit score, and also depends on loan amount. So you can get, the rates in the last 60 days, I've seen them on a 30-year loan as low as 3.25,
okay,
okay? And as high as 4.5.
okay,
And the reason it's such a broad range, again, it depends on credit score, everything is what they call risk-based price. So the higher the credit score, the better the rate you're gonna get,
that's good.
okay? And then also depending on program.
Mhm.
So there are programs that cover, you know, what they call conforming loans, and then you have jumbo loans. So depending on the size of the loan
Mhm.
and the amount of the down payment, that'll
Okay.
dictate what your actual rate is that you would get.
Okay, so now we're running average pricing for homes being purchased, and this is a home now, not a condo or a townhome. We're looking at least $595,000. Next tier will be about $750 or so, and then your high tier is looking at over $900,000 to $1 million.
Right.
So we can get these grants in all of these particular levels of programs, correct?
Well, as far as the grant
purchase.
goes, the actual grant through PWR, they have limits on the actual sales price,
Okay,
but you're looking at about close to $700,000.
okay, okay.
So the whole goal is obviously to get in the person that's really a first-time buyer
Okay.
and give them the opportunity for home ownership.
Excellent.
The bond program's a layered financing, you're really looking at, those are really conforming loans.
Okay,
So you're not gonna be looking at something at probably 700,000 or 800,000,
Mhm.
you're probably gonna be looking at something really more towards the, 500,000 to 600,000 maximum.
okay,
We get a lot of condo buyers when we're
Okay.
dealing with these layered financing, because
Okay.
again, it's an opportunity for first-time buyers.
right,
And so a lot of times we're looking at townhomes or condos.
Okay,
Because
okay.
they're trying to maximize what they can get into for the least amount of money.
Okay,
So that's generally what we're looking at.
excellent.
They do high balance, so you can get, something at 6 or 650. You can do that with those layered financing programs. You can
Okay.
still do that with the grant too. And you can do all those layers of down payment assistance, and then if you still have a need, you can actually put the PWR grant on top of that.
Okay, all right. So right now, we're just gonna take a break and we're gonna identify ourselves, Keith A. Stafford, Home Ownership Education Program. Today, we are giving to you over the KAS 411 midweek podcast, information, motivation, and education on everything about real estate, from financing to home buying. And I'm working directly with sellers, buyers, investors, and I want to also let you know if you're renting or leasing, I can help you in that area also. We're sitting here with Gina today. I'm gonna give you another little tidbit on Labor Day, because as I was researching this, you guys know what I do. I kind of look through it and kind of figure it out. I thought this was very, very interesting. So Labor Day has its origin in the labor union movement, specifically the 8-hour day movement. And I thought this was very, very good, which advocated 8 hours for work, 8 hours for recreation, and 8 hours for rest. How many of you get 8 hours of sleep a night? Okay. So anyway, Labor Day, remember that one. And for most countries, Labor Day is, linked with International Workers' Day, which occurs actually on May the 1st. But in the United States and Canada, we celebrated the first Monday in September. So that's what it is. We're sitting here with Gina Farrow this morning and wanted to continue on with our talk about mortgage and how it all ties into getting a loan, finding a lender that will finance your dream, which is that home that you would really want to have and purchase and live in with family and your children and raise them in different communities. So Gina, I know there are more programs out there, but let's talk a little bit about, because you talked about credit scores.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about, how much you can afford to buy. So we really want the first-time home buyer to understand, if you're renting now, you may be able to purchase. So if they're renting, let's just say, and paying a certain base price, and it bumps up $500 or $600, how do you take that into consideration for them to be able to afford that?
Well, really what it comes down to, there used to be a lot more focus on what they call payment shock, what you're paying for rent versus what you're buying. So we always encourage people to, get together with a CPA or somebody that prepares their taxes, and they can give them a kind of an idea of withholdings and what they can do to adjust those withholdings so that it's a little less of a shock to go from renting to buying. But usually what we're looking at is one of the things I always start with is, before we even get into income, is I always like to find out where their comfort zone is.
Okay.
Because we all have a pain, or I jokingly say a pain threshold level.
Okay.
Of how high we feel like we can go. Because we can qualify them based on income, and usually when I meet with someone, I do that. I said, okay, this is what you can qualify for income-wise. Now, believe it or not, 3/4% of the time, the people aren't comfortable with that payment.
Okay.
So then we back it up.
Okay.
And then we go back to where they feel comfortable. And usually what ends up happening is when they connect with someone and they really start looking at areas and property,
Right.
then they have to make a mindset adjustment. And they'll usually end up somewhere in the middle, or somewhere, sometimes closer to what they can qualify for income-wise, sometimes more towards the middle, but usually they pull away from where they really feel like they're comfortable, especially once they talk to someone who prepares their taxes and figured out what they could do with adjustments on withholdings and things like that to be a little bit more comfortable with that higher payment.
Okay, all right, so that sounds good. And basically what you end up doing is you see maybe $1 million home and you say, wow, I want that, I want to live there. But we can find you a lower priced home and fix it up a little bit. Now they have loans that you can fix up property.
Yes.
And put your own design and different things into the home so that you feel like you're living in that $1 million home.
Right.
Home is where the heart is at, so remember that. But Gina, talk about that a little bit.
Oh yeah, there are rehabilitation loans where you go in and you can get in with as little as 3.5%, and then you can basically have that home, do room additions, new kitchens, new bathrooms,
Okay.
that kind of thing. Typically what you need to do when you're looking at something like that is you really need to get with someone before you go too far into the transaction to figure out exactly what it is you want to do.
Right.
And what's realistic, and usually with those programs, they don't do anything what they call luxury items, so no swimming pools or things like that. So if you're just looking at basically remodeling the house, and maybe doing a room addition, then you're going to be looking at, that's a good program. But you need to get with a licensed contractor
Right.
and figure out, based on your desires,
Mhm.
what is it gonna cost you?
Okay.
And then you go from there, but you can actually get all of that financed.
Okay. Now, that loan there, is it like a line of credit that will be released as you do the work? Or does it sit there and, you're able to use it all at once, or how does that work?
Well, basically what they do is they take the bids that you
Yes.
get from your contractor
Okay.
and the list of items you're gonna do.
Okay.
The appraiser will go out and appraise it, assuming all of these things are done.
Mhm.
So then you have an appraised value there.
Okay.
Then what happens is as the work is completed, those bids will go in, and there's actually a person that handles that. They basically, I say ride rucksaw, but they basically are watching the contractors, and they basically are taking those invoices, when the work is completed, then they get paid.
Okay.
And so as things are going, escrow's already closed, by the
Mhm.
way, the sellers got their money,
Mhm.
and now, the process begins, and then those people will get paid as the work gets accomplished.
And just one, how long are these loans available for as far as the money sitting there? Is it like a certain amount of time, a limit amount of time
Well,
that they have to do the rehab?
Up to 6 months, it
Okay.
usually doesn't take that long. Usually you're looking on average about 90 to 120 days,
Okay.
depending on the extent of the work.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Well, Gina, thank you so very much for being here with us today. It's been some great information, just a little bit of tidbit to let you understand what the lending industry is all about. And once again, who's your realtor? Keith A. Stafford, homeowner educator, looking at sellers, buyers, investors, and if you want to look to rent or lease, call me up. The number will be down at the bottom of the screen, how to get in touch with me. I'm able to get back in touch with Gina. Till next time, we'll see you real soon. Have a great Labor Day weekend. Be safe. Have a lot of fun. Peace out.